This is task 1H part 1, continuing with method 2, and in this tutorial we're going to focus on these 4 fields here in the main part of the booking form. Now if we have a look at some of the things that we've got to do, when the form is opened the following will be displayed. And we're going to start with this one because this is the nice easy one. The date of order will be today's date. So what we're going to do is have a look at this. If we were creating a new record, what we want to happen is for this to come up by default as today's date. So if I go to design view, and what we're going to do is select the properties of booking date, and we're going to change its default value to be today's date. So that is date bracket bracket, like that. Now when we go to look at this and we create a new record, you can see it's come up by default 1st of August 2014. That's the date that I'm doing these recordings on. So go back to design view and we're going to do payment due. Now the default value for payment due needs to be 14 days after today's date. So that's quite straightforward. We use a function called dateAdd, and we're going to add in days, okay, the number 14 days to today's date, which is date bracket bracket. So that's today's date, 14 days added. Okay, so if we now have a look and we create a new record, you'll see it's added 14 days to today's date. Now we need to look at the booking ID. Now this is a little bit more complicated. It needs to be unique. Now you might be thinking here, oh that's okay, what I could do is I could use an auto number. Yes you could, and that would make it unique each time. However, it's going to cause you problems with the existing data in the pitch allocation table, because if you look at the pitch allocation table you'll see that there are also already things allocated to booking IDs. So if you now change the booking table to have here we go, booking table to have new booking IDs, it might work okay. It probably will. When you create it, it will set them up automatically, but we can't guarantee that, and so we need to be very careful when doing that and choosing to do it. So one option would be to set it as an auto number, and you can do that, delete it, recreate it, set as a booking ID. But I should think you'd be able to have a go at using the dmax function, and what that does is it looks up a maximum value in a table. So we're going to look at what is the current maximum value of booking ID, and we're going to add 1 to it. So we're going to go for dmax, and we're going to look up the booking ID field. So booking ID, notice that I've put this in square brackets and speech marks, and we're going to look that up in the booking table. So what that is returning at the moment is the maximum value of booking ID in the booking table. And then what we want to do is add 1 to it. So let's have a look. If we go back to our datasheet view and I'll have a look at the last record that we've got is record number 10. There's the dates, and that's all the data that already exists. And if we were to create a new record, you can see it's now come up with number 11, the booking date and the payment due. The final thing that we need to do is sort out this church ID so that it's a drop down box. That's quite straightforward. You've done this sort of thing before. So we'll remove the existing church ID and we'll create a drop down box, and we want it to look up data in the church table. So that's an existing table. So we'll go for the church table. We'll include the church ID on there, the church name and the postcode. Those are the things that help us to identify it. We're not going to hide the church primary key because we're not sure whether it should be displayed there or not. We can hide it if we want to, but I'm going to leave it as unhidden so that it actually shows that. So we'll continue with the church name and the postcode. I'm making it a bit wider because when it comes to the house style, it needs to all fit in. Church ID is a value that we want to pick up from that table, and we then want to store it in the foreign key for the booking table, so in the church ID for the booking table. So there it is, that's the booking table and that's the church ID. What will I call it? Simply church. Click on finish And now we have a combo box which just needs tidying up a bit for the church ID. And we'll test that works. Go to our new record, and there we go, we can choose a church ID. Now I'm going to delete that because we don't actually need it, so I'm going to remove it and any other records that might happen to be created as well. So that's sorted out everything on the booking side of things. The next tutorial is going to start having a look at the pitch allocation side of things.